Hello, thank you for being with us. Can you sum up the story of Occupied for those who didn't watch the first season?
It's Norway gets a green government that stops producing oil, which leaves the rest of Europe in a deep crisis regarding energy. So the European Union and Russia decide to go into Norway to restore the production of oil.
The main thing we discussed in the first season is if you could keep your wealth and almost all your intellectual property or your freedom, who would then make an uprising or resist this occupation.
What will happen in season 2? And which angle did you choose for this new season?
It's still an occupation, and now it's obvious they're not leaving, but still it's debating whether or not the uprisal is growing bigger or not. But we also look at the society, what happens inside the political milieu and stuff like this in a situation like this. Sort of anyone in this universe are gaining something also from the occupation, so the moral dilemmas are not so black or white. So we're debating who can you trust, who are interested in their own well-being or the well-being of the democracy or stuff like that.
Yeah, and also I think we discussed because of nobody really wants to have the power when you're occupied because, as a politician, you sort of more or less dead afterward than the choices. So we also talk about how how a Western democracy or like the Scandinavian countries, how that slowly can, fall apart within.
And the topic of Occupied is very bold, especially with Russia. Were you afraid to make them upset?
I think when we first started to work on season 1, we all thought, even if there is the Russian who are coming and doing the Silk Road occupation, we mainly were, debating what the Norwegians would do and also how we would relate to the EU, and especially since Norway is not part of the EU. But as we started to shoot the series, the first season, Russia went into crime, so everything became more plausible, and they are the big brother and we have the border to Russia. So, there was a little bit of a heat when we had the first season, but now it hasn't been anything,
No, and also. The Russians are depicted quite okay in the series. They're not the bad guys as such. It's just as much, they're the only ones who sort of are honest and willing to get their hands dirty, to do the dirty business for the EU. So the political game is just...
Are they really honest?
They don't, yeah, in a way, because they say, okay, we're here. Of course, they're saying we're here to protect you and stuff like that, but compared to the EU, that sort of use Russia as a means to do the dirty business for them. It's another layer of the story.
Is it a way for you to warn Europe of the extremism and the ecology problems?
When we first started, it was more about thinking, what would I do if something happened in a country? Because as Norwegians, we always thought of ourselves as heroes, especially, during the Second World War, we were occupied by the Germans, and everybody thought that, after that, we all want to think that we all made resistance. We didn't. So, but we also wanted to take a peek on also how Norway became a very big oil state, that we're very dependent on the oil, even if it also made us rich. And also tried to talk about how that we need to do something about the environment. But that was more, I think, in the first season. The second, it was more about, how to keep the democracy and also to have a debate about it, because people start out as being very optimistic and idealistic, and then they get into the politics and perhaps become more cynical and want more power than actually trying to help the people. And we see that in some of the European countries now, that, you know, it's scary things that are happening.
But I don't think we're trying to be prophetic or anything. We're just looking at tendencies and having fun playing with what if. I think what if is the most used phrase in the writer's room.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Series.